and then we rotated your crops. The pollution of the seeds or even the seeds that we produce could be sexual, unsexual, but the most important is like what it portrays is centrally, that's the cultivatable carbon vitamins. This is the formula that we call it the sustainable. If we don't do this formula, so we're not gonna get that sustainable to create special to improve our ground for our crops. So thank you to that, we combine all these principles and obtain a sustainable system. So it's very important to do it this way and to work with that intensive method. So we do have some pictures right here. We do have a different, we do this when we do the workshops. When we do the workshops, we have a lot of people working. They help us to do a double excavated. So we see this picture. So we all, at the same time, you have to frame, you have to take the measurements of the place where you're gonna grow. We call beds. We do work the beds from 10 square. I am sorry, we're still watching the videos. The video is still on. So Federico says, let me turn it off. Maybe the best way is Federico to share your screen. We still see the video, maybe you know what happens. All right, there we go. Yes, yes. Well, just to watch the video is just to see the 8 principles from a different way, for that different way how you would do the excavator, because that is very important. It's a technique that you do only once. And also depends about that structure, the ground structure that you have. But the most important about the scale, our bed is the most important. So we do work with 10 meters square. So we do the system all the mentality. So we do work with that 10 meters square. So it depends about your height. When we're small, when I do this, I do 1 meter and 25 by 8. With that,
we're
we
able
can do the bed
to
of
work
you
the double size
harvest.
of the bed.
So
And that is
this
a
is
good
good.
thing to do when we are working
Like if
in
you are
lower
short height, we can do like
when we are working in
1 meter
lower
times 6,
temperatures
as you
in
can see
height
in different
as well.
pictures, with a double excavation.
The double excavations is really good because it helps us um,
Right.
to give oxygen to the soil, and 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 all of that gives us a lot of air. It feels kind of filters air within the soil, and that gives the plants, the roots, a lot of advantages and ability to grow. Now I'm going to talk about the other principle that is very important within the double excavation, which is the composting. Composting have to have to be done according to the materials that we have. And the important thing is to have all the important things, which is uh, dry matter, green matter, um, and we did this shortly in our garden, and we did it with dry matter, and we did it with Vesa. Vesa is like a green minutia, and 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 we did it. We excavated within a meter deep. We we did it with the composting. We call it cold composting, and the more that is gonna go is with within 55 Fahrenheit. And what's gonna happen is that with the temperature is gonna be um, lowering up. In during winter time, we do this and it stays for about 6 months. Another time, important thing is to do the seeds. The majority of our material, we do it within its seeds. We cultivating the seedlings. Um, the seedlings we put it in a storage. M- Many times, especially like the beans, um, we the seedlings we do it in during the spring, and then when the summer comes in, we directly um, during the spring we put it in seedlings, and then during the summer we put it directly in the soil. um, it's very important to have healthy plants. What you see in here, that you see, we took it out from the soil, and we took it and we put it in our storage. And this, as you could see, we put it in big boxes, but also you can take it with your own hands. Um, then after this, I'm gonna explain this important piece. If you look at this in the window, you can see the spacing, the planting, the closed in. If you see, you normally you do it in a line, but we do it in a triangular phase. And because of that, because you do it like that, we are able to plant more than if you were in the other way, and that's why it's called it intensive. If you see here, you could see the association between lettuce and onions. That was during the winter in my garden. I did apples, onions. You could see the here the association. This is a diverse association, but the most important thing here is the knowledge, to know our plants. You know, the knowledge that you acquire in knowing which plant goes with another one, how they relate to each other. One of the association that they did was lettuce with onions and beets. But with the biointensive agriculture, you can do many different associations. We are doing now association called association milpa. and that is that we do beans, watermelon, onions, cucumbers, and all of those together within the same bed. And the idea is not to plant a big quantity, but to plant different associations, and to know that we're gonna do different associations. So our base is corn, and then we associate um, another plants within this. We we classify them in different terms. That way we are able to identify and know how to classify our beds. There are some plants that are strong, that is that everybody consume, and there are others that are also powerful. We call it the vitamins. So we call it minerals and nitrogen, like the legumes, like the beans, right? So you see on this side the strong the strong crops, um, the strong ones, like the cereal, the grains, those that spend a lot of time on this soil. So, and that's why they are called crops of strong crops. And it could be potatoes, carrots, and the and then we go to the important piece, like the sustainability of all of these, like the crops of carbon, vitamins, and calories. And if you see this formula over here, for instance, our garden, we have 3 beds of 30 square meter. So we're gonna put 50, 60% of carbons, and then 30% of calories, and then 10% of vitamins. And then only the 10% we're gonna use within vitamins or other crops. And this formula is sustainable. It sustain itself. Um, when we do the carbon crops, that allows us to maintain the biodegradation. I'm gonna show you. Over here, if you see the sorghum, it gives us 23 kilograms of um, biomasa seca. Over here, we had the winter haba, or winter beans. We get this because this is a crop that covers the soil, and it also provides a lot of good nutrients to the soil. You see this, the 18 kilograms of dry biomass, um, and it will cover the whole thing. And then over here, the corn. This is the one that we use in the Latin American. The dry biomass, it it depends of the variety of corn. that we use, some of them will give us a more dry biomass. To me, when I did this last year, I got about 10 kilograms of dry biomass. And then the crops that we use to obtain the green matter, like the compost, to obtain something hybrid, we need nitrogen, the minerals like nitrogen. The over here, the VESA, um, this is in a 10 square meters is a lot to do this. And then the winter bin, this was about 2 years ago. I got 86 kilograms of green biomass. Then over here we get into the calories. This crops is an efficient crop in terms of nutrients. And what happened is that with this, we are able to obtain the 2,400 calories that we need for the day. And then when it talks about the the deficiency of the land, then we we know that in an annual base, the calories that we need is about 150 square meters or less to obtain what we need. Some of examples, um, we have what we call batata camote or sweet potato here in the US. This is very good in weight. Um, over here, potatoes, we have potatoes. It's very important, especially because of the short amount of time that it spends on the land. Now we're gonna talk about something that is very important for this method, which is the seeds. With the seeds, what we're trying to do is to multiply them. Like when we have a garden, what we try to do is just to multiply them, to save them. So the seeds that the farmers save, we save them. And even big institutions, big enterprise, they have started to save, store their seeds. And when we can get together and exchange seeds is very important. Over here, we are in an association that protects the seeds called Cocopelli. And the important thing here is to know our seeds and to know our plants. To produce quality seeds, we need to know how the plant work. What is the cycle that the plant goes? If we are able to know our fruits and our seeds, we will be able to produce quality food. And another important process is to know how to save it, how to put it away, how to dry it up and be able to be reused for the next time. It's very important. We focus a lot on this, and when we start working on our garden, and we start working with the seeds, the most important thing is, of course, to save them, but also to exchange them between us. Is very important, the exchange of seeds. And like I said, in different presentations, it's a very sustainable method. um, is very it's incredible, the amount um the amount of products that we have with this biointensive method. I'm gonna show you here some pictures of the gardens, some of the gardens most important in Latin America that are using the biointensive method. Here is a is the garden of Longevous in California. I have been there. I have researched their method. It's been for more than 50 years, and it's been used in more than 143 countries. Over here, you could observe the different varieties and the different beds that they have. And they have been able to develop a very um, a system that has a good equilibrium in itself, and they have developed a good balanced diet for families, and they have developed 44 beds, that is like 400 square feet of
In Russia, as you can see, the compost, they haven't separated them. They did it all together inside the beds. So this is what we do, how we separated the compost. But as you can see, they have done it right in the bed. So the value in Mexico, Ecuador, Mexico. So right here, I'm gonna talk a little bit about my experience in France. This is the first that's for my job when I did the excavation. That was my first experience. I started working with 8 beds. So and today I do have 24 beds. So little by little I am develop more beds because I'm trying to obtain, my object is to get to 24 beds because we are 5 in my family. I have a family of 5, so that's my idea, is to get my own vegetables, my own food. So as you can see, there are 8. Probably you did not see it all 8, but with those 8, I am developing with the different intensives in Europe. Like it has that we have done an investigation of 5 years that we are adopting that system. So we do take a sample for our ground. We send it to a color Jackson. So they work with that type of ground, the John Levy. So they, in respect of this, when they study our ground, our soil, they do recommend it the most important, let's say in those 3 countries that we do grow the same crop. So, but we do get this. We developed this in 63 years, 63 days, and every place is different. The structure is different, but by the soil test, we have seen the difference between the soil, between the grounds. So the balance with the grounds, the balance with the soil to get more. So The goal for that investigation of our soil, so we can see if the compost is reducing, it's reducing in our ground. So we do use a certain amount of liters of compost in our ground or our soil. So this is where we have, for example, for me, from that investigation on my soil. So it looks like I had retained a lot of my soil, so I don't have to get rid of it that much. So the calcium in my ground. So someone gave me that idea, that suggestion that if I can put a little bit more, add more compost on my forebed, so I can see the difference from my crops. So this is after I did the double excavation. This is my garden in 2022. As you can see, potatoes, we have sunflowers. Now we have a different types of plants. As you can see, the winter beans with the different crops like leeks, onions, echalotes in a different crops. And I do have a diversity, but it's very important. If you do the planification inside our system, it's very important. When we planning, we can rotate it differently. As you can see right now, I plant winter beans. Where they did right now, there, that they took all the green material out of my soil. So as you can see, I planted different plants on the back. You cannot see, but at the end of the spring, it was dry. So that's why I was able to make two compost. So now, as you can see, we are in the summer. Right here in France, it's summer. As you can see, potato, onions, burger. It's the big plants that you can see, the corn. I do have a different variation of corn. So it's very important. At the end of the cycle, you can see we see good crop in a 20 meters square. As you can see, this is what I harvest. Potatoes, onions, tomatoes. Last year with the 2 square meters, as you can see, the leeks they were very incredible in 1 meter square, because I planted in a different places, but there was a place that what I got like 11 kilograms of leeks. And last year I had a harvest carrots. Last year I produced 108 kilograms of carrots. So the gingivos, thank you to his job, I can see more in my garden, because his is more balanced than mine. This is my 3rd year right here to develop with this method. As you can see right here in this picture, I successfully got the letters for salad. As you can see, I have 52 letters, head letters. It is only 52 square meters. Thank you very much. This is it about my presentation. I don't know if you have any questions. I just summarized about my methodology. I really didn't want to get into the data, because that covers more about this method. It's very interesting that it brings us a lot of vegetables, improves your health, especially teach you how to work with the soil or with the ground in a balanced way. And it gives us the freedom on the food system.
Federico, thank you so much. We'd like to take this moment to invite, we have some time for a few questions if folks would like to raise their hand or share those in the chat, and we will share them with you.
We do have two questions. Yeah. Scott, what does that mean? Like crops, carbons, calories, and vitamins. You want to explain more? Yeah, the crops, carbon. It's about cereal, like the dry mass. That is because accumulates a lot of carbon that we classify as a carbon after it's dry. That's how we use it to create our compost. So now the calorie crops, they're very efficient about energy. For example, like I gave some example, like potato. And like in a small space, it gives a lot of calories for even for us. So it's our crops for our food and for us to have a lot of energy. So like fertilize like salad, cucumbers, anything that it brings the most important vitamins for our body. That will be the global explication about global classify the calories, carbons, and vitamins. That's how we classify. And the second question of Scott, have you like a carbon, vegetable carbon? Like have you, yes. Like I explained at the beginning, we don't use any chemicals external because we don't need it. I never have used it before of that type of, because the carbon, we have it, we get it from our own plant, from our own crops. I really have it include that into my compost. I know that my compost, thank you to the system that we have adopted, we have balanced it that way. God says, thank you very much to see your method and thank you for teaching us.
Thank you, everyone. Any final questions before we wrap up? Now's the time.
I do have a question. Ms. Gabriel. Thank you for your presentation. I have heard a lot of people that curious to learn about this method. And that I can see this conflict with the method and not break it. How to take care of the soil, the ground, just leave it, not excavate it that much. What do you think about that? Yes, good question. That is a good question. The difference is with the double excavated, I know it happens right here in France. We do have that movement and we should not touch the ground. We should just let it rest. With this that we want the results, fast results. Actual, the double excavation, how can we recuperate that nutrition faster? If we don't touch the ground, we will balance the soil, the ground, but it will be slowly. Since we're not working that way, so it's gonna be hard to know if the ground is balanced or not. So to balance the ground, we have to put more like was or wood chips. So we incorporate it on the ground slowly. So that's what we do in this permaculture system. We don't want to incorporate anything in the ground because we use a double excavation. So we can improve our soil with that texture. To improve the texture, so we can bring more microorganisms, like more, so they can go in our beds, they can go into different spaces on our bed. That's the most important with excavation. And the other thing, the most important, that the roots of our plants, they will go deeply and they will go deeper and they will develop grounded, they will ground them deeply. So that's the difference with double excavation. Instead, not touching the soil, the ground. If we don't touch it, it will be slowly production. If we don't touch it, we will leave it alone for 10 years to have a balanced soil. So where we work with our method, with our system, like in 2 and 3 years, we can see the results. And at the same time, we check that our harvest, our crops, it doesn't come with any bugs. We don't have our plants that are very healthy, and I am balanced the organic material. So this is how we just follow it. This is the most important about this method intensive. When we incorporated external elements, there is no follow it with that, because we don't know the amount of that we incorporate on our compost or soil. There is another question. If you can, you can do this in a bed, like a urban, those beds, those elevators, that elevators that we use in the garden. Yes, of course. In France, I haven't done it, but in Nicaragua, I did work like we use a garden, an urban Carmen, like with that those elevated beds. We work in that small space because people didn't have a garden, they didn't have a space. And what we used to do 2 or 3 beds. And then I used to get used to obtain a lot of so I developed a lot with that method, and we really get the successful see the results with a small space. Successful, we did incredible results. At the beginning, you have to integrate some elements because they're small spaces. You can't have all the elements to construct our compost. But at the beginning, you do it because you continue planting.
All right. Any
Do we still
Sí,
have
sí, sí,
time?
tenemos, we
Yes,
have a few more
do.
minutes.
Have more questions. With this questions about gardens, with the excavation, we do the excavation every year. Like whatever do we gotta rate it, to get rid of the grass, to get rid of so we have to rip it. I understand that that is not a campaign, maybe it's just exchange the knowledge about it's similar to the meta saying. It's just a combination, both of them. Thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you to everyone. Yes, it's true. I just want to finish with that topic or with that point. the most interested about the double excavation because that is a very important point. The double excavation, what it does is because you soil, you ground, it will structure rapidly. When we incorporate any certain element, so the change will go slowly. That's the difference. So after you do the double excavation, you don't have to do it again. No, like I was explaining in my presentation, because the rotating of your crops, every cycle of your compost, the ground is getting its own balance. That's why we have a planning yearly. And thank you to that, we get that concrete planning because we do have that center of our. We have to planning with successfully. If we really wanted to get that 60% of crops carbon process, sometimes it's very hard to get those carbon crops. That's why we use the green compost, because I know that we're not gonna get that 60% of a carbon, but also we're gonna get that the green massive. So we're gonna balance that system. Thank you to that. Thank you for answering that question.
I just want to thank Federico so much for everything that you have shared with us today. And I want to just share a few more announcements before we wrap up today's session. I'll be dropping links in the chat, so please be sure to grab those before the Zoom closes. Now is a really great time to give us feedback about this session. If you would please take a moment to look at this online evaluation. If you can't get to it now, sooner is better, as everything is fresh. And oh, actually, you know what? I'm so sorry. We have 2 more questions, and I would love to find an opportunity to prioritize those. If that's okay. Thank you, Federico. Okay, so the first question is double digging done annually? Oh, ya lo contestamos, sorry. Hold on, Ulum, do you have?
No, you don't need it. You only do double excavation once. And then if we follow all the method, you don't need to touch the soil anymore because the soil, it gets its own balance and its own. It looks like there was another question. There was another questions on the chat. If you can please send us a list of that company with that plans, like how to work. Yes, I do have a big list. I can share it with you, of course. I think the other person wanted to ask a question is Ruben. Well, thank you very much for your presentation. Very, very interesting. My question was about the excavation. If the excavation, you do it by hand, or have you done a different type of excavation? It's always by hand because excavation is a technique. As you can see, the video you weren't able to observe it well, but it's a method that is not complicated. It's a technique. Of course, it's a physical work at the beginning, but if you have, it has its own technique. If we do it in the right way, let's say like now that I do have that ability to do it, because it's maybe like in a 2 or 3 days, like I do a double excavation of 10 meters square, but it goes slowly. There is no need you have to do it fast. But the most important that you have to use the right adjuster to do this. but we haven't used any equipment to do that. Yes, we have used our own tools. Like the double hand, it's a tool. It's a wire with teeth of 30 centimeters. Yes, we use that just to go a little bit faster. We use that, but it's a tool. We also use different tools just to improve and to keep going with that technique, with the excavation technique. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, last call for any final questions. We'll have, 1 more minute. Okay. In the meantime, if we could have folks just fill out the survey that we just shared. And then the second quick announcement before we wrap up today is just a reminder about the online auction that will be supporting our year-round programming and advocacy work. If you're able to bid, we encourage you to bid generously. We'll be sharing that link as well. And yes, lastly, just please join me in thanking Federico, Gómez, Camey. We really appreciate everything that you shared with us and all the important work that you are doing. Thank you for joining us, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you to all of you. I am very happy that I was able to participate in this conference. Well, I am here if you still have any questions. And also if you can send me your questions. I do have a lot of information and a lot of data of this method. I will share with people that are really interested to work with that method.
Absolutely. That's lovely. Thank you for offering that. Great. I also just want to give a quick thank you to all of our interpreters who have made it possible for us to host Federico and share his knowledge with so many people. Thank you all so much for the work that you do to make this talk accessible. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone. We hope you can join some of the other final sessions online for NOFA, and we hope to see you all in person on Friday and on Saturday. We wish you all a wonderful rest of your Thursday. Federico, thank you again, and we hope to see you all soon. Have a wonderful rest of your afternoon.
Bye. Bye.